Stories are energy suckers. They keep you trapped in imagined problems, imaginary victories, and endless what ifs. The moment you stop believing in them, that energy is freed. That energy is now yours. That is how your actions become effortless. You move, decide, build, not to impress anyone, not to secure anything, not to become someone, but simply because there is nothing in the way. The mind that is free from stories is untouchable. When I say stories are energy suckers, I'm not talking about some mystical process. I'm talking about the most practical, direct theft of your life force that happens every moment. Energy is not just physical strength, it is attention, clarity, vitality, presence. The power to see, to act, to create. That is your real energy. And stories consume it endlessly. Let me show you how. The story of me. The primary story is I. Everything begins from there. I am this person. I must become that. I have failed. I must prove myself. To maintain this story, the mind is constantly busy editing, defending, comparing, explaining. It's like running a massive background application that never shuts off. Every interaction, every thought is filtered through what does this mean about me? That constant self referencing drains energy. You are not tired because you work too much. You are tired because you are constantly maintaining your image of yourself. The story of what should be. The mind lives in comparison. This should not have happened. I should be further ahead. They should have treated me better. This is endless internal resistance, and resistance burns energy. Life flows one way, and your mind pushes in the opposite direction. Every moment spent wishing reality were different is friction, and friction creates heat. Heat exhausts. The story of becoming. You are forever preparing to live, not living. I'll rest when I succeed. I'll feel complete when I have this. This story places you in perpetual deferral. Energy is always directed into future that never arrives. You build these castles in the air, but you pay for them with the electricity of your nervous system. That's why even when you achieve, you feel empty. The energy was never returned. It was spent sustaining an illusion. The story of others. The constant storytelling about people, what they think, how you compare, how to be seen, is pure leakage. Each judgment, resentment, jealousy, or attempt to impress takes a fraction of your life force. You walk around as a fragmented being, scattered across hundreds of imagined opinions. The story of control. You think you can shape outcomes, manage perceptions, secure certainty. This illusion of control is the heaviest drain of all because it keeps you in a chronic state of tension. You are trying to hold a river in your hands. That constant tightening, planning, overthinking, it is all energy being burned without purpose. When all these stories run together, your system is depleted. You wake up already tired, not from work, but from identity maintenance. Now imagine, all those stories drop. You don't have to be someone. You don't have to secure tomorrow. You don't have to be approved of. You don't have to fix the past. In that instant, the background noise stops. Energy, which was previously trapped in psychological motion, returns to stillness. And that stillness, that quiet reservoir, is raw power. From there, movement becomes simple, precise, unstoppable. That is what it means when I say stories are energy suckers. They drain you by keeping you in constant motion inside your own head. Freedom is not about gaining energy, it's about ceasing to waste it on what is unreal. The energy I speak of is not the calories you burn or the hours you sleep. It is the very essence of aliveness. It is the current that allows you to perceive clearly, respond spontaneously, and create effortlessly. It is the energy of awareness itself. Now, stories steal that energy, not by force, but by seduction. They whisper in your ear, you are someone. And the moment you believe that, you are no longer free. Because to be someone means you must defend, maintain, and protect that identity at all times. How stories steal attention. Attention is life. Wherever your attention goes, your energy flows. When your attention is captured by stories, what do they think of me? Am I doing enough? What if I fail? It is no longer here, it is elsewhere. It is in an imagined world. You are physically present but mentally absent. And because energy follows attention, Your aliveness leaks into the unreal. You become like a phone with 100 background apps running, constantly draining battery. That is why you feel tired even when nothing has happened. How stories distort clarity. Clarity is seeing things as they are, not as your mind wants them to be. But the story turns everything into a mirror reflecting you. You don't see a person, you see how that person affects your image. You don't see a challenge, you see a threat to your identity. You don't see facts, you see meanings. The story inserts itself between you and reality, and you begin to see through a fog. That fog is confusion, hesitation, overthinking. You can no longer act cleanly because perception is contaminated by self concern. How stories drain vitality. Vitality is the natural electricity of being alive. When you are fully present, that energy flows without resistance. But every story creates friction. The me wants one thing, resists another, fears a third, hides a fourth. You are split in 1,000 directions. This internal conflict burns life force. That's why, even after achieving what you wanted, you feel no joy. The energy has already been spent in conflict before you got there. How stories destroy presence. Presence is the state of no division, where the doer and the doing are one. When you paint, you are the painting. When you run, you are the motion. That is real living. But the story separates you from life. It keeps commenting, narrating, evaluating. Am I doing well? Will this succeed? What will people think? You are never fully in the act, you are watching yourself act. You live as your own spectator. That's how peace dies. The birth of limitation and unhappiness. All stories are cages, elephant golden cages, perhaps, but cages nonetheless. The story defines what is possible and what is not. It says, I can do this, but not that. It says, I am worth of this, but not of that. Every definition is a limitation. You are an infinite being trying to live inside a sentence. And because you cannot fit, you suffer. That's a root of unhappiness, trying to confine something vast into something conceptual. The other side, the magic. When the story drops, even for a moment, when you stop referencing yourself, the fog lifts. Suddenly, life becomes unbelievably simple. Decisions become clear because there is no me to protect. Work becomes effortless because you are no longer working for an image. Joy arises naturally because there is no resistance between you and existence. That's what you called magic. And yes, it is magic, but a silent one. Not the magic of glitter and excitement, but the magic of reality unfiltered. It's like standing in front of a mountain without naming it, without trying to capture it, without wanting anything from it. You just see. That seeing is pure energy because no part of you is lost in past or future. The great paradox. The moment you try to hold on to this magic, you've created another story. The ego says, ha, I found peace, let me keep it. And just like that, the fog returns. So, freedom is not something you achieve, it's the natural state that shines the moment you stop believing the lies. So, when I say stories suck energy, I mean they consume your most sacred power, the power to be here. And when you no longer waste it on imagination, what remains is immeasurable strength, effortless creation, and peace that does not depend on conditions. That is the great reversal. When there is no filter, life reveals its own brilliance. The magic was always there, only the story was in the way. When I say stories are energy suckers, I mean this. Every story is an invention of the mind. I am successful, I am a failure, I must become something, they don't respect me. These are all fictions masquerading as truth. They are narratives you rehearse endlessly, and each time you believe one, you hand over a piece of your life force. Understand this deeply. The mind is an energy system. It has a finite amount of attention, clarity, and vitality. Every moment that energy is spent maintaining your personal mythology, your past, your ambitions, your regrets, it is no longer available for direct living. It is like having 1,000 browser tabs open. You think you're working, but you are only overheating. When the stories collapse, that energy, which was previously entangled in imagination, returns to its source. It becomes raw life force. Suddenly, you don't have to motivate yourself to act. You don't have to convince yourself to be disciplined or passionate. You move because there is nothing obstructing movement. You create because creation is your natural state when not burdened by narrative. This is why I say the mind that is free from stories is untouchable. Because nothing can disturb it. Praise cannot inflate it. Insult cannot wound it. Success cannot intoxicate it. Failure cannot destroy it. It has gone beyond all that because all those things exist only inside the story. You are not here to fix your story, you are here to wake up from it. The only reason life feels heavy is because you are dragging your story everywhere you go. Drop it and you will see. Life was never a struggle. Only your story was. When I say there is nothing in the way, I am speaking of the collapse of illusion. The way is not made of walls or people or circumstances. The way is made of you, your compulsions, your fears, your desires to be seen, your desperate search for permanence in a world that is fluid. You try to impress because you believe someone's perception of you can give you worth. You try to secure because you believe the future can be made safe. You try to become because you believe you are not enough now. These are the pillars of the story. The story says, one day I will become someone and then I will rest. But that day never comes. It cannot. Because the very mind that seeks it is the problem. When you see the futility of these games, not intellectually, but experientially, they collapse. You stop playing them, not as an act of discipline, but as a natural outcome of seeing their falseness. At that point, there is nothing in the way, because what was in the way was never the world. It was you. You are wanting, you're performing, you're pretending. And when all of that dies, what remains is pure movement. You act without reason, you build without motive, you live without story. It looks effortless because it is effortless. The one who was trying so hard to live has disappeared. So, yes, trying to impress, trying to secure, trying to become, all of it is a dead end. Not because it's morally wrong, but because it leads nowhere real. When you finally see this, life becomes astonishingly simple. You move because there is no longer a you in the way. When I say what was in the way was never the world, it was you. I mean that the obstacle has never been external. It has always been the machinery of your own mind. The world is silent. The trees, the wind, the work before you, they have no agenda. They simply are. But the mind lives in constant movement, wanting, fearing, comparing, pretending. It creates a fog that covers reality and then complains that it cannot see clearly. You say you want peace, but you want peace on your own terms. Peace with applause, peace with recognition, peace with security. So you chase fragments and call it life. But every fragment you chase becomes another cage. You achieve something and immediately the mind says, what's next? You get the relationship, the body, the job, and still a subtle hunger hums inside you. Why? Because the very seeker is the disease. The mind that is built on becoming cannot experience peace. Because peace is not a destination, it is the absence of becoming. So when I say it was you in the way, I mean it was your wanting that distorted perception. It was your pretending that exhausted you. It was your constant performance that prevented you from ever being natural, spontaneous, alive. The world never asked you to prove yourself, you did that. The world never demanded you to be someone, you invented that. The world never made you anxious about the future. You believed the lie that you could control it. When you see this, the structure of the you begins to crumble, and that collapse, though it feels like death, is the beginning of clarity. Because what remains after all this dissolves is effortless action. You build because building is natural to life, not because you are chasing validation. You work because there is work to do, not because you are seeking security. You move because movement is what energy does when it's no longer trapped by delusion. This is what it means when I say there's nothing in the way. When the performer dies, the performance becomes art. When the seeker dies, seeking becomes silence. When the you dies, life finally begins. Stories keep you trapped in imagined problems, imaginary victories, and endless what ifs. Most of what you call problems are not happening now. They are projections. Thoughts about what might happen, interpretations of what shouldn't have happened, comparisons with what could have been. The mind invents enemies and obstacles so it can feel alive. It survives through friction. You worry about money, reputation, future, relationships, not because those exist as threats, but because thought creates anxiety and then feeds on it. It keeps you spinning. You think you are solving life, but you are only sustaining your own restlessness. In the same way, your so called successes are imaginary. You win a promotion, a partner, a following, and the mind says, I have arrived. But that arrival is short lived. The mind immediately sets another destination. It never truly celebrates, it just postpones dissatisfaction. That's why every victory feels hollow once the applause fades. It was never real, it was just another story. And then endless what ifs. What if I fail? What if they don't like me? What if I never make it? What if something goes wrong? What if I choose the wrong path? The mind is an endless generator of what ifs. It creates a fog of hypothetical lives, hypothetical future, hypothetical dangers. It drags you into imaginary timelines that never arrive. You must see the brilliance and the madness of this. The mind believes it is protecting you by anticipating every possible outcome, but in doing so, it never lets you live. It replaces life with simulation. You don't walk through the forest, you walk through your thoughts about the forest. You don't meet another human, you meet your thoughts about what they think of you. These what ifs are the perfect trap because they always seem important. They whisper just one more thought, one more contingency, one more plan, then you'll be safe. But that then never comes. It's an infinite chain with no anchor. When you see this, not as a clever concept, but as a daily inner imprisonment, something radical happens. The what ifs lose their power. You realize the only thing that was ever real was the moment itself. Without the what ifs, the mind becomes quiet. Without the what ifs, decisions become simple. Without the what ifs, there is no future to control, no past to repair, no self to maintain. That is what I mean when I say when you stop believing in stories, the energy is freed. Because the energy that was once scattered across 1,000 imaginary futures, all those what ifs returns home. And in that return, movement becomes effortless, clear, and alive. You are constantly swimming through waves of thought, never reaching the shore because the shore does not exist. The mind tells you just a little more, just one more goal, one more change, one more answer, and you keep swimming endlessly. This is the trap. You confuse motion for progress, chasing meaning through stories that have no end. When you see that both your suffering and your triumphs are imagined products of thought, something extraordinary happens. You stop swimming, you stop trying to fix, to win, to arrive, and in that stillness, you discover the ocean was never your enemy. It was your attachment to its waves. As long as you believe the story, you will forever mistake imagination for life and you will call that bondage living. The mind is the ocean. You are not the ocean, you are the awareness watching it. But for most of your life, you have mistaken yourself for a swimmer caught inside it. You think your job is to keep swimming, to stay afloat, to reach a shore somewhere ahead, a place called peace, success, enlightenment, fulfillment. But the tragedy is the shore does not exist. It never has. The ocean has no edges, it's infinite. Every time you think you are nearing land, another wave rises, another thought, another goal, another what if, another promise of arrival. And so you swim harder. You say, I just need to fix this one thing. I just need to make that much money. I just need to become that person. But the moment you fix one, 10 more appear. The horizon keeps moving away from you. That's the mind's greatest trick, to keep you swimming forever by convincing you that the shore is real. And the more you struggle, the more exhausted you become. You start to think, maybe if I learn to swim faster, think better, plan more, meditate, optimize, I'll get there. But all you're doing is improving your technique for drowning. The wise man doesn't swim. He realizes there's no shore to reach. He stops. He lets the body sink. He lets the water swallow everything, the striving, the searching, the constant motion. And in that stillness, he discovers something miraculous. He does not drown because he was never the swimmer, he was the ocean itself. That's the freedom I speak of. When you stop trying to escape the waves, when you stop chasing the illusion of land, the water becomes still. You are no longer in the mind, you are beyond it. And now, when you move, it's not out of fear or lack or ambition. You move like the tide, naturally, silently, without reason. There is no destination, only flow. The endless waters are the perfect symbol for the human condition. An ocean that only seems endless because the swimmer refuses to stop. And liberation is not in swimming faster, it's in realizing you are never lost at sea.